I'm opposed to the establishment of a DEI committee as a formal town-sanctioned committee. I feel it will be opening the door to other groups who would request a similar committee to address their perceived grievances. This committee would be decisive rather than inclusive. I know a number of Bristol residents and business owners who would not participate in tonight's meeting and make their positions public because they're afraid of the repercussions from those with opposing views.
I would not be in favor of a town council approved DEI committee. One question that I keep pondering is whether there is any specific evidence related to an individual or group being denied access to address the town council in order to present any issues related to discrimination or inclusion. I think if any of these issues were presented, the town council is adequately prepared to address them. It seems that some of the laws covered in the Civil Rights Act of 1964 are some of the same issues being addressed by the proposed Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. The Civil Rights Act mainly prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, among other things.
I do believe that the DEI committee has a place, but it should not be intertwined with Bristol politics. Diversity, equity, inclusion are three powerful words that have very subjective meanings depending on who you ask. This committee should be established as a private, concerned citizens committee, and I strongly believe that it does not have any place within the political or official structure of the town of Bristol. If approved, more and more committees will come before this council for approval with their own objectives. Today, a new president and administration were sworn in. It's been a very challenging and difficult election season and continues to be so. Unfortunately, we are a country divided where censorship is gaining momentum and many Americans believe in the cancel culture. If your beliefs don't sync and you don't go along, you will get deleted, get canceled, and you may even lose your job. This is not the America I love. Certainly not the America I want my children and grandchildren to live in. We can better achieve diversity, equity, inclusion, not by the town of Bristol sanctioning such a committee, but by actively working to stop this cancel culture, promoting kindness and civil discourse, and making this the legacy to pass on to our children.
And I want to be clear that my opposition to the DEI committee is not an attack on any individual or group. My opposition is based on making this an arm of the government, on the erroneous presumption that Bristol is not a welcoming community, that this proposal is divisive, and it is intolerant of the beliefs of others. In this sense, the DEI committee would seek a standardization of ideas by a dominant political or community group. As such, this strikes directly at the freedom of speech. It is a version of Orwellian thought police, and already people in the community fear to speak their minds. This condition borders on incipient totalitarianism. I spent 20 years living and traveling in such societies, and the parallels I experienced there to a government DEI committee are striking. No society is perfect or ever will be, but America has made amazing strides in recent decades to ensure the civil rights to all. The petitioner's proposal denies this fact of life and unfairly paints Bristol with an unwarranted identity politics brush. 2 days ago, we celebrated the life of the great Dr. Martin Luther King, whose approach on race follows the line of Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington. The petitioner's view on race issues turns Dr. King's philosophy on its head. Dr. King focused on the content of character and on the individual, not the color of skin or group membership. In closing, while the words diversity, equity, and inclusion all sound nice, they have a coded meaning that is very different from common usage. They have a meaning that flies in the face of Dr. King's dedication to fighting injustice by appealing to what is best in the American tradition.
I would like to express my concern about the creation of a DEI committee. I strongly disagree with it. I don't think it is wise for a non-elected committee to advise or influence our town council in any way. It doesn't make sense for the council to yield their authority to a non-elected committee. Bristol's a beautiful town, but it does not need more bureaucracy. Thank you for your time.
I am speaking in opposition of a DEI committee for several reasons. First off, according to the petition, it is to promote, support, nurture a diverse, welcoming community. But down in the proposition, it says it will remind people of enslaved people in America, indigenous people, and I feel that this committee will basically do the opposite. You do not welcome people to a community by reminding it of history's faults. You don't encourage criticism. Second, I'd like to say that diversity is a positive thing, but who is judging diversity? Is it based on objective numbers, metrics for the state, for the nation, or is it a subjective definition of what diversity holds? Last, I think equity, also a very positive thing. The definition is being fair and impartial, except this will do the opposite, because equity by opportunity is different than equity from outcome. And perceived fairness is overall different than actual fairness. So if this is going to affect the town and town policies, I think that it's best left as a private organization and unofficial to the town.
Draw a strong contrast between the words that the petitioner spoke today and the words that have been being used for the last 3 or 4 months. The petitioner is requesting the formation of a committee on an unsubstantiated foundational premise that Bristol is a flawed town in need of his committee's advice and counsel. He's using a national narrative of systemic racism and bias and applying it to Bristol without adequate local evidence, which is simply wrong. There's been no evidence at all presented tonight. I just want to read you a few of the words that have been used by the petitioner in drafts of this proposal and also in the newspaper and online. That this committee is to bridge divides and bring our community together. That we can make Bristol a place that is welcoming and inclusive for everyone, including those who experience discrimination and marginalization. And finally, provide recommendations for inclusive and equitable policies to the town. And yet tonight, we're really hearing that it's going to be a festivities committee. We want to have festivals. All well and good. But the words matter and the intent matters. The petitioner's message is clear. Maladies that he believes and his committee exist throughout the world also exist in Bristol. These words tell all residents this town, which is a great town, they are biased and racist. It's a simple-minded and insulting premise crafted without a single ounce of proof or truth. I respectfully request that the petition be denied.
I oppose what we need. There is no need. There is no systemic racism in Bristol. A group like this will want to be divisive, just like they did with the Duel Tavern, when they went and showed videos and this and that. And the council will end up being the target of this, because if you don't agree with anything this select group says, and if you're not with their selective thought, you will be the target, and they will destroy what we have here in this wonderful town. You know, I remember how you guys caved to the BLM flag. You're going to do that again if you give these people their way. I oppose it. Thank you very much.
I think it's a great town, but as far as I can tell, this DEI petition is a solution in search of a problem. And if there is a problem, the problem can be handled outside of the town council and the town government. There are many committees, as has been mentioned by many other people tonight, that can take up any concerns and be welcoming and to provide assistance and provide direction and to integrate anybody who feels unintegrated into this community. And thank you very much.
I oppose the town council's official approval of the DEI committee
that would result in its being added to our town's present group of boards and commissions. I believe it is unnecessary and divisive and will be anything but unifying. I see no reason why Mr. Hancock and his supporters need to have an official imprimatur of the council in order to achieve its mission and goals. Why can't they simply establish themselves as an autonomous citizens organization, much like the Bristol County Concerned Citizens and other charity-focused groups, and direct their attention and energies to identifying real versus imagined issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion? And if and when deemed worthy, they could bring such issues to the attention of their fellow Bristol residents, our town administrator, and the town council by writing letters to the editor and or getting on the agenda to speak directly to the council members. I have no objection to DEI advocates starting their own perceived civic-minded organization. It is their right to do so. But if we are really looking for a win-win opportunity to resolve this apparent irreconcilable impasse among those in favor and those opposed to the petition as it is now presented, that solution seems to me to be the most reasonable and doable. Thank you very much.